We got a new Leglers list this week. A new
Yeah,
Leglers list, a new segment we're doing here where I task Legs with coming up with a top five of a certain topic. This week, who better to ask about prettier jumpers? And earlier in the week, we were talking, I can't remember what player we were talking about, and you were saying it's not the prettiest looking jumper, but it goes in. And it made me thinking,
I think I was talking about Halliburton. I think.
yeah, I think it is. Yep, Halliburton, whose shot I trust as much as just about anybody's, especially in the clutch. But you're right, it's not the prettiest looking jumper. So now I thought, okay, who are the prettiest jumpers in the NBA? You made a list. I've seen it. I have a few disagreements, but why don't you reveal your list?
All right, so and I'm going to go look. Steph's on there because if you don't put Steph on there, like you're doing a moron, obviously. And obviously Clay deserves to be on this list too. But I thought to myself, you know what? That's so
Yeah.
obvious that I want
Yeah.
to get some
Okay.
other guys that maybe people wouldn't be thinking about. So, and I'm going to
All right.
go. I'm going to start right to left here. So Jordan Hawkins, I wanted to get a younger guy in there.
Man.
I think his stroke is so pretty. And when he was at UConn and I saw him shooting the ball, and I thought for a decade, like Ray Allen, that had the prettiest stroke I had seen. Until
Yeah.
we heard about this guy named Curry coming into the league, and Jordan Hawkins has some of that in him, man. It's a little bit shorter and a little bit more compact, but his elbow is lined up. The way it comes off his fingertips, his palm, his offhand, his guide hand, it is absolutely perfect, and it is the same way every single time. So I had to put him on there. Michael Porter Jr. is on there.
Hold on. I want to go back to Jordan Hawkins here because
Okay.
Jordan Hawkins, I don't think he's on people's radars just yet because it's New Orleans. You know, it's hard, the name maybe doesn't ring out. The guy does have an incredibly quick trigger, but good
Yep.
shot selection, which is so
Yeah.
rare for a guy like you could tell because he's a small guy. You could tell that he has been undersized. Some guys are not undersized until they get to the NBA, and it's the first time they've ever been undersized. He's probably been undersized his whole life, and you could tell because he knows what's my avenue to being a great player. Quick trigger, beautiful, perfect balance and everything on his shot. I'm high on that guy. I think he's really, really good for a guy that tiny.
Yeah, and he's already made a huge splash with them. I mean, he's
Oh,
become next to Zion probably their crowd favorite because look, everybody going to the games when you see a guy like that rise up, like the
yep,
expectation now he's proven it over here even a
yep.
short sample size. This is going in. Like everybody kind of feels it, so he's already sort of taken over that. I'll go to the next one I want to talk about is Michael Porter Jr. He's there in the middle of the screen.
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. There's something about like taller guys that rise up and jump like he does, but he's got such a beautiful stroke and he's got great timing on his release, which most guys that jump high don't. They have inconsistent release times because you can't time that every time
Mm.
you're jumping 25, 30 inches off the ground. And Michael Porter Jr. gets off the ground when he shoots it. And it's
I
funny.
got a
I took
stat for
some.
you. I got a stat for you, Legs. He
All right.
has the
Here you go.
second highest release point on his jumper in the NBA. Last year, he was first. The only player this year higher, Wembanyama, 7'4".
Wow, that's
So not
amazing.
only so he's 6'10", 6'11", so automatically you're starting from a high base. He jumps, like you said, 40 inches in the air on his jumper. He just gets elevation. And then his release point is really high. He's not one of these guys that's shooting it from below the chin. His release point is really high.
You
So
know what else?
yes,
You know what else that stat tells me right there that you just gave? That tells me that you have no idea if I asked you about series on Netflix because you're home looking at this kind of stuff. Right? That's why you're the best of the best. Okay, that you
I
came
just
up with
got
the
burned, man.
second highest release point in the NBA to back me up exactly when I wanted to go there. You're better than the research department I have at ESPN. It's
There
amazing.
you go.
Oh man, I love
That's
that.
courtesy of Second Spectrum, by the way. Shout out Second Spectrum.
There you go. Second Spectrum's the best. All right, let's talk about Sam Hauser. Sam Hauser is kind of new to the list, and he kind of, he had moments last year, but he's really kind of come into his own now. He's out there for long stretches, and he is out there to do one thing offensively.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll see him put it on the deck, but for the most part, get to your spot and wait. And it's going to be from Tatum. It's going to be from Brown. It's going to be from Drew. It's going to be every now and then from Porzingis, Derek White. They have so many smart players that draw attention on that team. He's going to benefit from it. So he's very active. He runs. He doesn't just stand. He gets from spot to spot. And when he gets it, that catch, cradle to release point, that's about as pretty as it gets. And then he holds his follow through for an extended period of time, which to even over exaggerate it. So he's on there. But all these guys I mentioned, I won't even bother talking about Steph. We know about that. The most beautiful jump shot, picture perfect shot in the league is Duncan Robinson. And
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something. I have felt this way since I went to an NCAA tournament game up in New Jersey at Barclays, and he was playing in it. Well, I guess he was at Purdue. He was at Purdue, right? He got Purdue or Iowa. I'm forgetting right
Oh
now.
man, you're gonna make me look this up here. I'll look it up
So
while you're talking.
they were about to play, and Nova was there that day. They were playing also, and so I was just kind of hanging out by the court. I didn't know who Duncan
Michigan.
Robinson was. Oh, Michigan, exactly, Michigan. I didn't know who Duncan Robinson was, and I'm just standing there watching this guy and having a conversation with someone. Man, look at that kid's shot. Look at that. That is just absolutely picture perfect and so effortless. It's just, and that's when you know a guy's perfected mechanics. There is nothing about that looks remotely difficult or forced. It is so effortless and such a flick of the wrist. So I thought about him before. He hadn't played in the NBA, and I didn't even know that day. I think he had maybe 8 points, 10 points in the game. I didn't know if he was even an NBA player. I didn't know anything about his background. Then, of course, the story you find out, this guy started out Division III. He ends up at Michigan, and now he's gets into the league in Miami, plays a little bit early on. And then 3 consecutive years, this guy made threes, 270, 250, 232. Here's where it gets interesting for Duncan Robinson. So that takes us up through the end of the 21-22 season. And then they paid him. He got $90 million over 5 years. And he got $18 million a year. And the fascinating thing was, Adam, as soon as they paid him, and he had broken the franchise record for threes multiple times, they said, you know what? Thanks a lot. Go have a seat. We just found Max Strus. And I'm sitting there going, all year that year, I'm going, what is happening? Oh, well, we think Strus is a better defender. He's a little bit more physical. And I'm going, not by that much to dictate that. You've got that kind of shooter. You just paid him, and now you're not going to play him. And so, ironically,
he slumped too, though. He fell into a slump as well. If I recall,
he went into a slump because his rhythm was thrown off. Okay, so I don't think it's a coincidence. Where's Max Strus now? He's in Cleveland.
Cleveland, yeah.
And guess what Duncan Robinson? Look at his numbers this year.
Look at this. I love this.
Tim
Legler coming in hot. I love it.
Yeah, and he's on fire right now. This stretch that he's having, and he did it again. He did it again last night, and he actually improved his off-ball cutting. He puts it down sometimes. It gets to the rim. And a nice reverse layup last night off a drive. So he mixed in just enough to give him some supplemental scoring when he's getting that chest-to-chest coverage and he can't get any space. But when he gets space, and it's funny too, I watch Eric Spoelstra. If he ever turns down a shot with any bit of daylight, Spoelstra is so upset that he didn't shoot the basketball. Like, that's the level of belief and confidence they have in him. And I think for me, that's the prettiest shot in the NBA right now.
So it's a great list. You could go back and forth on this list forever. There's 2 guys you didn't mention. Oh, one thing I was going to say about Duncan Robinson real quick. Some guys jump quick up, quick down, or jump high in the peak and they come down. He kind of floats. It's almost like he reaches his peak early and then stays at the peak for a little while and comes back down. And I feel like that's another part of his jumper is, he's able to kind of get into rhythm, set in the air and let it go. And it's just kind of floating in the air. But the 2 guys you didn't mention
being 6'7" helps, by the way.
Yeah.
What I wouldn't have given to be 6'7", I mean, extra shots you can get off with that extra 3 inches of height, man. Tell you.
Right. 2 guys you didn't mention that I'm curious what you think. The second one in particular I'm is a point of contention. But the first one, Kyrie Irving. When we talk about jumpers, I think you're thinking of catch and shoot threes or off movement threes. But Kyrie is one of the guys who, to me, moving left, moving right, moving forward, backwards, the moment he goes into the air, it's like everything stops. He can stop his momentum and go perfectly up and balance and square himself. And he has a pretty looking shot. It's a little different than these guys who are more 3-point shooters primarily. But Kyrie to me is a guy that I'm always impressed.
Can I get a quick take on that then? Listen, sure. Kyrie Irving from the point where the ball comes off of his fingertip, the rest of that sequence till it gets to the rim, and like particularly the snap of his wrist and like the force with which he follows through and the way he finishes it is as good as it gets. The ball in his hand is turned slightly sideways. Like I think about traditional shooters like picture perfect mechanics. That ball, the way those seams are lined up, like there's a perfect backwards rotation this way. His ball, because his hand is kind of turned a little bit like this, it sits, it comes off almost at a different angle. Now, like I said, when it comes off, That wrist comes back to center and it's straight down and it looks pitched like the rest of those guys. Looks exactly like that. But that point when the ball's in his hand, it's about to come off, doesn't look what I would describe as like textbook form. And that's the only reason Kyrie Irving wouldn't make that list.
Interesting. The guy, so him, I thought, okay, I could see it. But this guy, Devin Booker, to me, has one of the prettiest jumpers in the league. And again, mid-range, three-pointer. Every time he elevates, I just feel like he to me looks like the silhouette of a shooter in a shooting textbook. So I'm curious, is Devin Booker far off the list to you? Is there something like that in his shot that you don't like?
Devin Booker almost. I was going to put him on a list instead of Hauser. I wanted to try to find a little bit more obscure guys for people maybe that aren't watching every night. You know, I could easily have just Steph, Clay, Booker, like an all-star game up there. I wanted to find other guys, right, to maybe make you have some interest. Oh, this Sam Hauser guy. Let me go check him out. If Legler thinks he's got a pretty jump shot, yeah, no question. Devin Booker's is absolutely flawless, no doubt.
Both Kyrie and Devin Booker just have such good balance in everything they do. Not just their jumper, but their layup package, everything. And the balance is the part to me that I'm just moving left, moving right. The moment they go into their shooting motion, everything squares, everything like slows down, and it's just gorgeous.
Silly like the mayor.